Hi guys, welcome to Year 10 Science and Genetics and Biotechnology. This particular video is going to focus on mutation. Mutations are changes in the genetic code. Now, a gene mutation is a change that occurs just to a particular sequence of bases. So that occurs at a very much smaller level, just usually within a gene. And can often happen during the process of replication, so when the cells are dividing. Most mutations are detected and fixed by enzymes, so the body has its own special inbuilt system for detecting and for correcting any mistakes that may be made during the replication process. However, some mutations still get through, and the impact of these mutations varies depending on the nature of the change to the particular genetic code. There are several types of mutations that we want to look at just in a bit of general detail today. The first of those are chromosomal mutations. The chromosomal mutations occur at the whole karyotype level. So this down the bottom here is a karyotype, and we know that the normal karyotype has 46 chromosomes. This one, however, has 3 chromosomes on 3 copies of chromosome 21. So you can see all of the rest of these are pairs, the way we would normally expect them to be. However, this particular chromosome, there are 3 copies. This is called trisomy 21 and is the cause or has been linked to Down syndrome. Because this is a change on an entire chromosome, it can affect many different traits. And you'll know people who suffer from Down syndrome are often characterized by certain physical appearance, some effects of their some mental retardation, those sorts of things. There are different degrees of Down syndrome, but it's not just a single change in a single gene or a single characteristic that contributes to that particular condition. Now, mutations don't have to occur at the whole chromosome level. They can occur just at the gene level, so-called genic mutations. These are the ones that just affect a single gene. An example of this is cystic fibrosis, a gene that is related to the production of mucus in the lung cells, so the cells that line the lungs. When mutations occur at the genetic level, there are 3 potential consequences. We will look at these in a little bit detail later, but effectively there can be no change, there can be a positive benefit, or there can be a negative benefit. Evolution as a process progresses on the basis that there are changes in the genetic code that it confers some sort of advantage on some individuals over others. And these, if they are successfully passed from one generation to another, can lead to a change in populations. So we need to remember that mutation isn't necessarily associated with a negative change in an organism. It can actually have positive benefits. The factors that cause mutation are called mutagens. There are natural and spontaneous mutations that occur all the time, and in fact all of us have, in some areas of our cells in the genetic code, some form of mutations. In fact, a very large number of these are neutral. They don't confer any advantage or disadvantage on the individual, and we most of the time just don't know that they are actually there. But we are constantly being exposed to forms of radiation that can contribute to an increase in the rate of mutations. And so we need to accept the fact that there are mutations occurring continuously at a low rate, at a sort of background level anyway. But it's also true that there's certain environmental factors, and these factors are called mutagens. And these are the ones that can increase the frequency of mutation. There's 3 different groups into which our mutagens fall. There's certain types of chemicals that interact, particularly chemicals that have a similar chemical structure to nucleic acids, can interfere and interrupt the bonding that occurs within the DNA. Types of radiation, we know that we've got a slip, slop and slap, and we're in the middle of summer at the moment, so it's very, very hot. and we know that the ultraviolet radiation can be very high, and this is a form of radiation that can certainly act as a mutagen and increase the rate of mutation within our cells. We know certain things like melanoma or increased rates of skin cancer are associated with high levels of exposure to ultraviolet light. Now, as I mentioned before, there's several consequences of mutations. Somatic mutations with the body, which are the body cell ones, occur at an individual level. These can be very serious, and they can lead to things like skin cancers or melanoma, and so they can lead to the death of an individual. But because the changes have occurred to the body cells or the somatic cells, we say that the effect is localized. It only affects those cells or that particular individual. We know that cancers, for example, can metastasize, and that means that they can move away from their original site and spread to other areas of the body. But again, when they do that, they're likely to still just affect the individual, although sometimes with the ultimate effect being their death. The problem is that if the mutation is linked to the germline, that is, if the mutation occurs in the gametes, then it means that some mutations occurred to the sperm or the egg. This means it's going to be passed on. And that means that any consequence of a mutation isn't localized to the individual, but can actually be passed on to all subsequent generations from that individual. So this is a potentially larger scale concern. Germline mutations can affect generations to come, and particularly if those mutations confer some sort of advantage or some sort of hidden, no particular positive or negative until much later. Some of these can remain without any noticeable effect for quite some considerable time. So there's a difference between somatic mutations, which just affect body cells and are therefore are localized to an individual, and germline mutations, which affect the gametes, the sex cells, and as a consequence can be passed on from one generation to another. So here's a question. The Zika virus is getting quite a lot of publicity at the moment, and it's a particular concern to pregnant women because there's been some links or certainly some suggestions that the Zika virus can increase the likelihood of microcephaly, which is babies being born with very small heads. So is the Zika virus a mutagen? Is it causing a type of mutation? And is there any way that we could use our genetics knowledge to explain what's going on here? Let's have a look at this one in class. Thanks for watching.